Howdy, I'm Jace. I have sex addiction and I work with a bunch of other people who do too. Do you have to stop having sex in order to recover from sex addiction? That is an excellent question that we are going to be talking about in today's video. But before we do, make sure you have subscribed and hit that little bell button so you never miss any of these videos. You can always stay up to date by joining the newsletter at jacedowney.com, and stick around because at the end of this video, I have a free resource for you that's going to help with recovery for sex addiction. So let's dive in. Do you have to stop having sex in order to recover from sex addiction? No. The simple answer is no. When we're talking about recovery for sex addiction, we're not talking about cutting ourselves off from or shutting down our sexuality, so our sexual drive or our sexual desire. We're not talking about ending sexual expression, how we bring that sexuality out with others, or even stopping the engagement of sexual activities or thoughts in general. That's not really the goal with recovery for sex addiction. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, where we want to be engaging in our sexual flow. So that sexuality, our expression, our activities, and our sexual energy, our sexual flow, we want to be embracing that and engaging in a healthy, vibrant way, especially if we're talking holistic recovery for sex addiction, like I Guide and that mini guide, and not just stopping the symptoms, right? To get there, it can be incredibly helpful to have a period of abstinence from all sexual behavior entirely, whether that's fantasy or engaging, even with a partner, a committed, healthy partner. The reason for that is just how it's engaged in the brain. And if you've been checking out any of these videos, you know that when we're talking about recovery, we have to be talking about the brain and body because they're connected. And when we talk about addiction, we're really talking about a dysfunction of the brain. In order to fix that and for new pathways to form and for old ones to kind of die away, then taking a break from even what might be described as healthy sexual expression can be incredibly helpful to pause down the connections in the brain that are tied to sexual activity so that you can in time heal them and form new ones. There's a lot of debate on what kind of pause is appropriate for that. And I know if you're freaking out by this point, believe me, I did too. If you are new to recovery for sex addiction, then that might sound like a death sentence to you. And I feel you. Trust me, I do. Whoo, I've been there. I remember. And even if you've been in for a while in recovery and maybe you have been trying and not getting long-term sobriety, and so you're like, oh, do I need to stop activity altogether? Yeah, it can be really helpful. Now, some call for a period of 90 days, at least 90 days, for complete abstinence. And the reason for that is just as we look at the brain and how things are structured and restructured, and the brain is always molding, it's always learning and teaching and learning from what it's receiving. And it's really cool. But we see that it takes at least 90 days before that healing starts. So 90 days itself is kind of like laying the foundation for healing. And then abstinence after that period of time is when the healing's actually taking place. So you might hear 90 days, which might sound like eternity. Trust me, it goes faster than you think. And there are lots of tools to help you with that. But that's really, in my world, that's a minimum. And then we bring time in after that to allow for the brain and body and the systems in our body to actually heal. It also helps give us a chance to step away from our old behaviors that are about using sex and using sexual behavior and activities and not having sex, which is very different. And what that looks like in a healthy way is something we can talk about later and something we all decide for ourselves. But our old behaviors, which were reacting out behaviors in a form of self-medicating or self-soothing or trying to get a need met in an inappropriate way, actually don't have to do with having sex or engaging in sexual activity for itself, like the sake of it itself. And we have another video on that as well, if you want to get more into that. So the sobriety in sex addiction is not celibacy. it's not the cutting off or turning off of our sexual flow. In fact, it's about embodying it in a healthy way and having a really yummy, delicious, strong, awesome relationship with that, and then bringing it into the world in a really fun and vibrant way. Like, people think that sex after being in recovery is like all robotic and, it's got to be like vanilla and, Kenny G playing in the background and there must be rose petals always. And like, no, it doesn't have to just be vanilla, though there's nothing wrong with vanilla. It can be rocky road and every flavor in between, so long as we have done our holistic healing. And if you think sex is interesting during active addiction, oh, just wait until you are in a place of thriving and self-love. Ooh, then it gets spicy. Now we're talking really cool sex and really cool connection and expression and using our sexual flow to empower our lives. So yeah, okay, is 90 days hard? Yeah. Is 100 days or 3 months hard or 6 months or whatever? Yeah. Is it worth it? Oh, you better believe it. You don't have to be abstinent. It's going to make your process a lot easier if you are, and it's going to make long-term sobriety a lot more possible for you as well, knowing that for many of us, celibacy is not the goal, and it's not how sexual sobriety is described for most people. And it can be as well. That's absolutely a choice that some folks make. And if that's right for you, that's totally okay. But you don't have to stop having sex to be sexually sober. And you're going to have a lot easier time if you do pause down for a while. And of course, that you're focusing on your holistic recovery, your holistic healing, not just symptom mitigation. So if you want to learn more about that and how to master yourself and not your symptoms, head to jacedowney.com. That's exactly what we're doing over there with people with sex addiction, so that we can not just survive our lives, but thrive in them and use everything from addiction and from our past to actually empower boldly satisfying lives. If you ever wonder, like, what does Jace do? That's what Jace does. And we have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. Head to jacedowney.com for more info on that, and stick around because we got that free resource for you coming right up. In the meantime, remember, master yourself, not your symptoms. As a person in recovery, you probably have figured out how important being proactive in your day and over your time is, which is why habits are such a crucial part of the growth journey. Unfortunately, a lot of the resources out there don't take into account the different brain structure of a person with addiction, the lifestyle, the experience, or the background, which is why I've put together another free resource for you. Y'all know I love getting out these free resources for you. This is a quick and simple guide to habits specifically tailored for people in recovery for addiction. You can get instant access to this free resource by going to the link below.